The Plague of Home, created by Niblexis. Why do you fight, son? Lance was dreaming again of that hopeless situation, trapped to defend their home, their last hope, the shrine that meant everything to them. The Council of Home was talking yet again of the dire situation happening within the walls of the city. Plague was spreading like rampant, caused by the rats, who came from the waste of home. The situation was grim. Peasants were falling by the hundreds. Lance's father, Lord Willikers, was stressed to his limit, trying to work with Nisivin, Roman, and the rest of the lords to find a cure. As much as he seemed to dislike the peasants, he really cared for them and only wanted the best for them, like a father forced to be harsh on his child so they will grow up to be successful. Lance paced along the walls of the inner city. Why do you fight, son? The question could not be tossed away from his mind. What was that dream about? It had to be just that, a dream. There was no way that the mighty dwarves would be reduced to weeping children by a simple plague. Lance looked up to take a look at the sky. He loved the sky. It showed limitations, yet it showed none. The sky almost seemed borderless, as if it went on forever. A faint glow caught his attention. A signal tower, burning bright with red flames. Danger, was the clear message coming from this. Bad things were happening. Lance grabbed his spear, a spear his father made for him at a young age, imbued with the power of Thor. When he made it to the gate, he saw soldiers rushing. This couldn't be good with that many soldiers at once. On the horizon, he saw a horde of varied plague victims, shockingly fast. When they meet each other, all hell is going to break loose, Lance thought to himself. He looked behind him after hearing the noise that made him feel safest, the noise that gave him more power than anything else in the world. His father was right behind him, spreading the buffalo horn's noise to the whole of the army. The dwarven military grew fiercer with that verification that everything would be okay. The army charged the monsters, cutting through them. Something was wrong, though. Lance couldn't have seen it wrong. The monsters seemed to let them do it, as if they just didn't care. Lance heard a loud cackle from where the monsters were at. Suddenly, all the corpses of the dead disappeared. The whole army stood in silence, wondering what was going to happen next. It was a game of anticipation. A bright light seemed to explode into existence on the horizon. When it faded away, a portal was revealed to be there. That has to be. There's a demon gate! Lance screamed at the top of his lungs. He ran to the front of the army. Soldiers made way for him. Monsters spewed out of the portal like water. They came in such high numbers and so quickly. Lance held his spear high and screamed a mighty war cry. The army once again charged, with Lance at the head. This time, the monsters put up a fight. He finally cut through the last zombie when he saw more. Uncountable amounts of zombies coming at him. He realized what was about to happen. The helplessness he was in. Death was coming. Soon. He leaned against a wall, tears streaming down his face from how hopeless it was. Son, I do not fear death. His father had told him this when he was young. Death fears me. Lance picked up his spear. He wouldn't lose. He would fight. He rose his spear high, screaming so hard that he felt his throat burn. He ran through zombies, cutting through them as if they were butter. He felt power running through his veins. He would fight. He continued swinging, cutting, screaming, like a wild animal cornered. He wouldn't give up. He wouldn't lose. He would fight. He cut through the final zombie he could find, and fell over. Blackness consumed him completely. It was dark in this place. I guess it's all you can expect from death. Why do you fight, son? So I don't die, Lance said, crying. Part 2. Lord Willikers heard of the news quickly. His son who he loved and cared for so much, had died fighting. He died, but he took out almost the entire fleet of plagued. Bruce grabbed his son, a sad look upon his face. He took him to the shrine and spoke words. Tessa allo tama tatulakesi tessa. The shrine glowed. The corpse of Lance Willikers disappeared. Bruce knew what this meant, of course. Lance accepted to give his power to their cause, even in death. He gave his power to the shrine, helped fuel it, helped give power to the dwarves with it. Even in death, he was a hero. Bruce woke up the next day, still feeling sad about the loss of his only child. He put on his gear. he knew how this would work. There was something, who kept on reviving the plague. The plagued were beasts, monsters. They didn't have any care for anything. They hated everything but those who were similar to them. Bruce could only pound his fists on the edge of the wall when he saw a fresh army of monsters heading straight towards the inner city. Bruce grabbed Excalibur off the table, pulled Verendra from its case. He ran non-stop to the front of the Dwarven military. They were all waiting for Bruce to lead them to victory. He always had before, and this situation was no different. He had lost his pride and joy. Nobody was there to replace him if he were to fall, so he wouldn't fall. He would lead his army to victory as he always had, and only hoped the army of monsters would stop growing.
"All right, men," Bruce shouted. "I don't plan on losing to those bastards over there. I damn well hope you don't either. For the glory of our hold, for the protection of our shrine, this is why we must defeat these beasts. I hope you fight your absolute hardest, men, because if you don't, we'll surely die."
Bruce let out an anxious sigh. He hated motivating his army. He thought it was a hard thing to do. The men would follow him to hell and back if he asked them, though. The battle was beginning. Monsters clashing with men. A battle to behold indeed. The strong against the stronger.
"Lord Willikers,"
he thought to himself. It was an odd thing that he was royalty. Most of the time, royalty is considered only powerful when they have the support of their defenders. Bruce could take out the entirety of the Dwarven army and escape without a scratch, maybe even without getting touched. His eyes were filled with death. Monsters would tell their children if they were ever to meet the ever-fabled men, "Never look into his eyes, for they contain a certain true horror." Bruce fought death once, and during that battle, he stared at death and survived, where a normal dwarf would have exploded into dust the very moment they looked at him. Bruce was not entirely protected, though. Death's power seeped into his eyes. Staring into the Lord's eyes would kill anyone instantly. He would not use his power on monsters, though. Death's minions, of course. He could not use Death's power against him. Bruce fought the monsters with everything he had. The immortality the Lords had worn off. The first Lord to find out was Lord Justin, who accidentally cut himself with a knife, and after seeing it did not heal, cut himself again, this time on purpose. Normally the wounds would have healed. He had to fight so he could survive. Survival was necessary to make sure the dwarves lived. If he died, so would everyone else. Thoughts of his son fueled his slaughter. He cut through the monsters. He was without mercy. They were the ones that killed his son. They would pay. He was growing tired quick, though. Maybe a quick sip, or a drink of juice would help. He sat down in a hidden area.
"Should be safe," he thought.
He heard whispering going on around him. Whispering wasn't normal. Hey there, Willie," an excitable voice half shouted from behind him. "You might feel a slight poke." Bruce saw the one who was making the racket, a dwarf in a golden cloak. Bruce didn't have a sword or bow out. He grabbed the man's blade by the tip, wrenching it from his hands. The traitor let go and it flew back. Bruce fell to the ground, bleeding from his chest. His vision flickered red, then slowly went black.
Book 2, coming to a store near you soon.